Hello everybody, my name is Sunny Rabbit, and in case you couldn't tell, I'm rebranding my new name as Sunny Rabbit Leap. I'm a warrior cat now. Warrior cats doesn't have a definite rule for names that are and aren't allowed, though it's unlikely we'll ever get a cat named Moonpool, Moonstone, or Star. Well, Star anything. Moon was originally considered sacred by the fandom, but then we got it used as both a prefix and a suffix, so that got thrown out the window. The only truly illegal name is Star outside of the leader suffixes. There has been discussion online about what counts as traditional naming and lyrical naming, with traditional naming being names like Leopard Fur, Dustpelt, Snowfur, and lyrical names being like Lion Blaze, Violet Shine, or Hollow Flight. Traditional naming is more along the lines of naming cats for what they are. Dustpelt has a dark brown coat, Snowfur is white, One Eye has one eye, so on and so forth. I've seen this being described as the first name being the appearance, while the second name is a skill or trait that a character possesses. As an example, Fireheart was named for his fur, with his suffix being for his bravery. Cats from Series 1 are often regarded as having traditional names since these books set the standard for what was legal and illegal, so to speak. It does have some overlap with lyrical naming since cats like Longtail, Blackfoot, and Running Nose have names where both the prefix and suffix correlate. Traditional naming made sense when the series didn't have as big of a cast, since you didn't have to worry about too many duplicates when there are only 12 cats in the clans. If we did use lyrical naming in the first series, we could have had Fireheart being Fireflight or even Fireblaze. Lyrical naming, on the other hand, is mostly about aesthetics rather than any specific meaning. Amber Moon, Red Willow, or Maple Shade will all fall under lyrical. It sounds pretty, but it does little to tell you about the actual cat who bears the name. Some of the lyrical names are very pleasing to the ear. Violet Shine is probably one of my favorite names along with Squirrelflight, but it can also give us some strange ones like Hop Whisker or Hairlight that sounds like the leaders were just pulling a suffix from the hat. Hawkfrost was definitely the first cat whose name I heard then made me think, oh, that's different, since the suffix is what makes them named lyrical. Any suffixes added after the first series would fall under this category. It's funny that any prefix is allowed, excluding obvious ones like Void, Blood, Glitch, but the suffix is what changes the category. If Squirrelflight was changed to a traditional name, it would most likely be Squirreltail. I'd like to think that some of the names we're getting now are more of a generational thing, that the cats who are getting some of the crazy names like Hollow Spring is just from the current leaders winging it with the names or creating their own suffix. Super editions that are set in the past kind of make this impossible since we got a Blizzard Wing, Vole Whisper, and Otter Splash in clans before the first series timeline started. So even in-universe, traditional naming isn't even a thing, but super editions were made after the fact. I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could have made the names follow the traditional naming scheme, but the whole thing was made up by fans anyway, so the authors weren't obligated to do anything. But names are more clan-oriented than you think too. You'd probably not see an Otter Kit or Stream Kit in Thunder Clan, but there'd be plenty in River Clan, and how Wind Clan has names based off the moor like Breeze Kit or Heather Kit. There are big compilations of names that could be used for OCs, and it would probably be best to keep the clan in mind when choosing a prefix. World building! For my personal feelings on names, the suffix can make or break a name. Twig Kit and Twig Paw is a cute name, but Twig Branch, even if the meaning is special, is just an ugly mouthful. And I do like names like Sunbeam, because it means a name like Ice Beam is now possible in the Warrior Cats universe. Based purely on aesthetics, I do prefer traditional naming as it offers either a rule set or at least some more cohesion to the naming. As much as I like the names that fall under lyrical, some of the newer ones we're getting are a bit more abstract. Though I'm not fully sold on traditional naming, as the names can get a bit boring. We had a Bracken Pelt in River Clan and a Bracken Fur in Thunder Clan at the same time. Side characters would probably get harder to distinguish if their names were so similar. Super glad that they've done away with naming cats after injuries or disabilities they have. One Eye, Crooked Jaw, Deadfoot, it's a little bit distasteful. The scene with Berry Nose not wanting to be called Berry Tail drew attention to how weird it is to name cats stuff like Missing Eye or Three Legs. It also took me a while to notice Baypaw wasn't named after Bay, like the body of water, but the plant Bay. The hollow prefix I'm still stumped on. Is it referring to hollow like the clans make the camps in, or hollow like something being hollow and having nothing in it? There is a hollow belly, which makes me think it's the second, but I think hollow just has really bad suffixes to go with it, regardless of which type of hollow it is. That's the whole reason I made the video, by the way. Someone needs to tell me which hollow definition it is in the comments below. Anyways, on the subject of names, I'm worried we're getting too many names that are in honor of other cats. Burnsong, Sorrel Stripe, and Hollytop were all named after cats that died in the Great Battle. Dovewind and Tiger Star's newest litter is named after both their fathers. Violet Shine naming her daughter after Needletail. It's a nice gesture, but it gets grating seeing it so much. The only one we had at the time was Crowfeather taking his name for Feathertail. Then Leafpool wanted to name J-Kid J-Feather from the moment he was born, practically. You can argue Leafpool too if you want to say that they named her after either Leafstar or Spotted Leaf. Naming cats after other cats has become prevalent in ThunderClan at least. It would be nice to see more cats who discuss names for kids beforehand like Squirrelflight did. Hearing that she already had names in mind separate from any seemingly significant meaning was cute. Meadowkid is such an adorable name. That's all I really have to say about names and warrior cats. I think with how many new suffixes have been added since Series 1, if anyone would be willing to move some of the older lyrical suffixes we have to the traditional section. Something like flight or feather is old enough that it probably wouldn't be too crazy to just plop that into traditional just because of seniority. Put flight into the Elder's Den, give it a 60% senior discount, it gets half price on movie tickets. Flight is sending us minion memes over Facebook, it's so old. You know in the books where kitty pets tell the warriors they have funny names? Something like Plumstone or Finchlight is that name. We've come full circle.